We need to be having a more nuanced conversation about ultra processed food consumption because, yes, don't get me wrong, we should all be reducing our intake of ultra processed foods, especially in light of a JAMA Oncology article that came out just last month, which of course showed that women who had a higher intake of ultra processed foods in their diet had a 45% increased risk of early onset colorectal cancer. Here's the thing, we have to be careful about putting a completely blanket statement on any food that is processed. There are some key exceptions to this rule, and I think one of the biggest ones is actually plant-based meat alternatives. Obviously, the meat industry and plenty of influencers on this app will tell you otherwise, but meat is not health promoting. And in fact, processed meat and red meats have been very closely linked to multiple types of cancer, including colorectal cancer. And we should all be eating less meat. That's actually a hill that I will die on. But here's the question, what do we do as an alternative? Because for a lot of people, it's hard to go straight from, bacon to lentils. The intermediary, which actually has been shown to be more health promoting than meat, is plant-based alternative meat products. There's actually this neat little study called the Stanford Swap Meat Experiment. I love trial names. And it actually found that when subjects replaced meat with plant-based meat alternatives like veggie burgers or veggie bacon, they actually had an improvement in several cardiovascular risk markers like LDL and TMAO. And this is congruent with a lot of nutritional scoring systems like the Food Compass 2.0, which do rate plant-based meat alternatives as overall healthier or more health promoting than meat, especially red and processed meat. Now, obviously, I'm not saying, no one is saying that this is the holy grail of health and that if we just switch to false meat products, we're all going to be super healthy. No, the most health promoting option is to switch to whole, unprocessed plant-based sources of protein like beans, edamame, nuts, legumes, lentils, those sorts of things. But for a lot of people, like I said, that's a really hard jump to make. And I think it's important to point out that there are some exceptions to this rule of all processed foods are bad for you. Yes, the paradigm still stands. I'm not arguing with the paradigm and the general sense that we should minimize processed foods, those processed foods being things like packaged cakes, cookies, crackers, soda. But what I am doing is pointing out that there is some nuance here, and that doesn't mean that we throw out all processed foods just because they're processed. There is some nuance here that I think is really important to keep in mind, and it's important to talk about.